new study shows energy drinks can impact your gut microbiome and even create an environment that makes you more susceptible to colorectal cancer. So to break down the science and what this means, I'm joined by Dr. Viral Oza. He's a gastroenterologist with Bon Secours. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
So let's first start with how an energy drink actually impacts your gut. Explain that.
So energy drinks have high concentrations of caffeine, but they also have high concentrations of a molecule called taurine. Taurine is actually an amino acid that helps in focusing. It's actually an amino acid that's used in building proteins within the body. Energy drinks have taurine concentrations that's 6 to 16 times higher than what we would normally get in our diets. So red meats have taurine, some seaweed has taurine, shellfish there's taurine. So taurine is there in our diets and we ingest it, but energy drinks have too much of it. So the thought is that taurine is used by bacteria in the gut and results in a byproduct, which then leads to an unfavorable environment for the healthy cells, which can then lead to potential cancer.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to kind of touch on, the tie with colorectal cancer. What is it we know right now? I know there's actually a study that's happening, so we'll get to that in a moment, but what's the research right now?
So, we know that the microbiome does have a role in development of certain conditions such as obesity. We know having a healthy gut microbiome actually helps in reducing risks for cardiovascular diseases, certain cancers. And this particular study that we're about to talk about is just going to add to that literature that having a good microbiome within your gut is actually helpful in preventing certain cancers, particularly gut-related cancers such as colon cancer.
And I know researchers, they want to take this a step further. They actually want people to drink energy drinks and test out to see what it does to the microbiome. And so they have a trial that's happening in Florida. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so this is a study out of University of Florida. They're enrolling patients in a trial to see how consumption of energy drinks leads to an increase in this byproduct that I talked about. If they detect high levels of this byproduct, which the researchers hypothesize it will, then they'll probably survey those patients over the next several years to see if they develop early onset colon cancer or not.
So do we know like how many drinks are too bad, or like what's the limit?
That's a good question. I think just like everything else in life, you talk about too much of anything is probably bad for you.
Yeah.
But no one really knows how much is too much. And I think we were just talking about a little while ago, is one drink per day bad, or is it one a week too bad, or is it too much? We do know that there's higher concentrations of taurine along with caffeine and some of these other chemicals in energy drinks. Too much of that, even in one day, I've certainly seen patients who come in with atrial fibrillation or an abnormal heartbeat just from ingesting too much coffee or too much of energy drinks. So that's certainly a hypothesis that doing too much is just going to be bad, but how much is too much? I think that's going to be a focus of that study.
So do you think people should go for alternatives like tea or coffee to get that caffeine fix? I feel like that's the reason most people have an energy drink.
Yes, so tea or coffee has been shown to be protective in some of these conditions as well. There's actually good data, one published just this week, that coffee consumption does lead to a protective effect against colon cancer. And the reason they hypothesized is because it actually results in a healthy gut bacteria, specific bacterial species found in our guts. It promotes that particular species' well-being, which then leads to a more protective impact.
All right, well, that's good to know. Yeah, the healthy gut comes from healthy foods, right? The natural foods, the more natural it is, the more natural your gut is. All right, so any other tips for people if they are energy drinkers?
Well, if you're energy drinkers, I would suggest if you're doing too much of it, we'll probably cut back. And again, we don't know how much is too much. If you're doing anything more than one, it's probably too much, just given the concentration of some of these chemicals in these energy drinks. But if you're doing one drink a day, you might be okay. But if you're doing that and coffee and tea, you might be overdoing it.
I would say maybe one a week. I feel like that's a better way to go. So, just be extra careful. That's more my motto. But all right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.